Hello and welcome back to JD Science Prep. Today we are discussing some unit conversions. So this is the first video in this series, so it is just an introduction. We will dive into a little bit more complicated examples in future videos. So it says when completing questions related to speed, velocity, time, distance, or possibly acceleration, it may be required to convert certain units. So especially in that physics field, you will see a lot of conversions when you're working with different types of units. So the time sign line method is simple to use because it can be used no matter how many steps are involved in the conversion. So it doesn't matter if it's a 1-step, maybe it's a 2-step, possibly a 3-step conversion. You can use the time sign line method. And just before you begin, make sure to know any conversion factors that you may need. So before we jump into any examples, I just want to talk about the structure that we're going to be using here. So first off, we will be having, or we'll have the units given to start, and then we will put what's called a time sign line next. So on the top is always our wanted units, and on the bottom are the units that we're getting rid of. Okay, so unwanted units. And again, this can be repeated over and over and over again until you get your desired units. But I just wanted to talk about the structure quickly. So let's dive into number 1 here. It's just going to be a 1-step conversion. So it says convert 1.2 kilometers to meters. So here's our given units. We are given 1.2 kilometers, and it wants us to convert to meters. So notice we want meters, so meters should be on top. So for every 1 kilometer, there are 1,000 meters. So always when you are doing this time sign line conversion, the top and bottom number should equal one another, just in different units. So 1 kilometer is always equal to 1,000 meters. That's our conversion factor. There's always 1,000 meters in 1 kilometer. So what we're basically doing is multiplying 1.2 kilometers by 1,000. So what we should get here is 1,200 meters as our conversion. Okay. All right, moving on. We have to convert 9,750 meters to kilometers. So again, we will just begin with what we know. So we have 9,750 meters, but this time the units that we want on top is actually kilometers. So we'll put 1 kilometer on the top, and you can probably guess we will have 1,000 meters on the bottom, and that should get us our answer. So we just have 9,750 divided by 1,000, and you should get an answer of 9.75 kilometers. So a key here also when we're doing these conversions, make sure to include all units. And one thing that you also can do to keep track is cross off your units as you go. So we have meters here on top, we have meters on the bottom. They're opposite of one another, so they should cross off. What we're left with is kilometers. Okay. All right, next up we have to convert 126 minutes to hours. So we're given 126 minutes, time sign line, and what we want is hours. So we must put hours on top. So we have 1 hour on top. And what is equal to 1 hour? You guessed it, 60 minutes. So if 60 is on the bottom, that means we are dividing by 60. So we just have 126 divided by 60, and what we get is 2.1 hours. And just to check our units here, we have minutes on the bottom, minutes on the top. Those will cross off. We're left with hours, so our answer should be 2.1 hours. All right, we are getting to more time examples here. We have to convert 7.2 minutes to hours. You know what? I'm going to switch this one up a little bit. Let's say 7.2 hours to minutes. Let's switch that up just a little bit. So 7.2 hours to minutes. So we have 7.2 hours. We'll use a time sign line. We know we want minutes. So again, units wanted must go on top. And we have 60 minutes for every 1 hour. So because 60 is on top, we must multiply by 60. And just check our units here. Hours should cross off. Whatever our answer is, our units will be in minutes. So we just have to go 7.2 multiplied by 60, and you should get an answer of 432 minutes. Now, sometimes you do run into these scenarios where the sig figs don't quite line up. We have 2 here, we have 3 in our first answer. So we can round this just to 430 minutes if required. So yes, make sure to know what to do with sig figs, whether you need to keep them, whether or not, what maybe you don't need to keep them. That's your responsibility. Next up, these last 2 examples are a little bit trickier. We're no longer on 1-step conversions. We're going to be looking at 2 or 3-step conversions. So first it says convert 125 kilometers per hour to meters per second. So we are given 125 kilometers per hour. Now the first step to this, and this can be taken in 2 different strategies, but the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to convert the kilometers to meters first. Okay. So what I'll do here is I want meters on top, so I will put 1,000 meters on top, and for every 1,000 meters there is 1 kilometer. That is my first conversion. Now we're not even close to being done yet, because in our question it wants meters per second, and we're all the way up into hours right now. So this first example, we are going to go from hours to minutes all the way down to seconds. So it's actually going to be a 3-step conversion. Okay. Now a tricky part here is that what I've told you so far is that the units wanted must be on top, but because we have hours on the bottom and we're looking to switch it to seconds, we are actually going to have our units wanted on the bottom for our time portion of this conversion. So what we'll put is 1 hour on top and 60 minutes on the bottom. That is going to get rid of our hours. Our kilometers are already getting rid, or they're rid of already. And right now, if we were to stop right here, our units would be meters per minute. But we do not want that. We want to get all the way to seconds. So we are going to use one more time sign line. And right now, we want to get rid of minutes and get down to seconds. And just quickly here, I do want to point out in this step here, we have 1 minute over 60 seconds. Those are equivalent. Here we have 1 hour over 60 minutes. That's equivalent. And we have 1,000 meters over 1 kilometer. That is also equivalent. So all of our conversions do make sense right now. Now let's just cross out the units to make sure we ended up with what we want. We have minutes on top here, minutes on the bottom here. Hours already crossed off there and there. And kilometers are crossed off. We are left with meters per second. We are good to go. We can throw this in our calculator. So we have 125 multiplied by because it's on top, 1,000, divided by 60, because it's on the bottom, and divide by 60 one more time, because it's on the bottom as well. And you should end up with 34.7 meters per second. That is going to be our final answer. So 125 kilometers per hour is equivalent to 34.7 meters per second. All right, let's jump into our last example here. I'm going to take a little bit of a shortcut here. I'll show you what you can do to shorten this process just a little bit. So this time we are going from 36 meters per second to kilometers per hour. So 36 meters per second to kilometers per hour. So the first thing here, I want to convert my meters to kilometers. Okay, so remember, we will have 1 kilometer on top, and that is equal to 1,000 meters. Now, the shortcut I'm going to show you is that 1 hour is actually equal to 3,600 seconds. So instead of, I'll just scroll up a little bit, instead of these two conversions up here, we can actually shorten this into one conversion just by saying 1 hour is equal to 3,600 seconds instead of going from hours to minutes to seconds. Okay, so we can do this in one step. So we have another time sign line. We have seconds on the bottom. We are trying to get rid of seconds and go to hours. So we want hours on the bottom. Okay, so we will have 3,600 seconds on top is equal to 1 hour on the bottom. Let's just make sure our units cross out here. We have seconds, seconds are crossed out, meters are crossed out, and we are left with kilometers per hour. Let's type this into our calculator. So 36 divided by 1,000, because it's on the bottom, multiplied by 3,600 because it's on the top, you should get 129.6. Let's take a look at sig figs here. You should round up to 130 kilometers per hour. Okay, so that we have 36 meters per second is equivalent to 130 kilometers per hour. Just another quick note here. Whenever you're going from kilometers per hour to meters per second, your meters per second should be less than your kilometers per hour. And when you're going from meters per second to kilometers per hour, your kilometers per hour, that number should be greater than the meters per second you started with. If it's not, you did something incorrectly. You have to go back and check your work. Okay, that is the video. I hope it helped. Like and subscribe. Thank you very much.